Welcome back to another episode of Blerd Up Reviews, where we review the latest and greatest in movie, TV, and gaming. We are your hosts. I am Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
And today we are going to review WandaVision episodes 5 and 6. Now, guys, our sincerest apologies. We did actually film a video for episode 5, but we ran across some technical difficulties. The audio was shot. I couldn't get it to convert properly, so we decided to pick it up with our episode 6 review. So and what we'll do is we'll just kind of run through some of the highlights from each of those episodes and just discuss things that we saw, things that we liked, things that we disliked, all that good stuff, and go ahead and push into some predictions toward the end of the video. So before we jump in, thank you to everyone who likes, subscribes to our channel. Your views, your comments, your shares, it definitely helps us grow. It also lets us know what type of content you're digging. And also, if you are new, welcome to the Blerd Up family. If you are digging the content, the reviews, the reactions, we got gameplay, just make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you too can stay up to date with all of our content.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump into it, dear sister. WandaVision, let you take the lead.
All right, let's go. So let's just go ahead and talk about the biggest thing that has happened in happened in episode 5, but we got more of it in episode 6. Evan Peters from the Fox universe, X-Men universe movies, shows up as Quicksilver Pietro. And yeah, so when I first saw this, I was like so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is multiverse. And we're finally getting it. But going into episode 6, I kind of had my doubts in terms of whether or not this was actually Pietro. Did you have those same thoughts?
No. So I was at the opposite. So first things, when he popped up, the way he popped up, I was just kind of like, oh, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. I like it. Look, but then inside of me, I'm like, the multiverse is ripping. It's ripping. And basically what this is doing is this is opening the door for all those other properties that Marvel previously didn't have the exclusive rights to in terms for film. It's opening up the door now that they can be incorporated into the MCU. So I was excited from that standpoint. I also thought it was weird because it was right when Vision and Wanda were having like their little face off, and Vision accused Wanda of every time he's getting close to something, she puts a distraction up and the doorbell rings and she's like, I ain't do that shit. Like, that's not me. And it turns out to be him. So in my head, I'm like, oh, okay. Something's happening here. And again, it just reinforces the fact that Wanda's not alone in what's happening. So
yep, I totally agree with you. I think Wanda is not alone in doing this. However, I don't think she is in terms of PH, because we did have a couple of instances in episode 5 where there would seem to be like an interruption, and even Agnes would go back and say, Wanda, do you want me to take that from the top? So I think the interference from other people caused somebody else to either say, okay, you need to get your illusions under control. And I think it got to a point where, Vision's like saying, what are you doing? How could you do these to these people? I think somebody had to step in and said, okay, we're going to give you Pietro. But it's not really going to be Pietro, but he's going to be the one that you're going to talk through all this stuff with and tell you that this is okay, because the people that you have created or are controlling aren't helping you at all.
Right. Yeah. That was definitely a thought of mine also. But that was the thing about specifically not episode 5 so much, but episode 6. I think it kind of allowed all the theories that we all have as like reactors and reviewers. It just added another level to it. Like, hi, you thought it was this, but it might be this now. So now what you gonna do? Look, now what you gonna do, YouTubers? Like, and I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It just stood everything up on its head again. So
Yeah. And even going into episode 6, even Wanda isn't sure that this is the actual Pietro. She's actually going into episode 6 hesitant and asking him questions to see if he like remembers stuff from the past, testing him. And Pietro actually does say, hey, I know you're testing me, but he didn't answer the question.
Right.
He just said, hey, I know you're unsure of whether or not it's me, but it's me. I don't have to test. You don't have to, I don't have to prove anything to you. You should just know. No, you didn't answer the question.
Right.
So even Wanda at this point is just like, I'm not really sure if this is a person that I can trust.
Yeah, and we'll definitely dive into it more in predictions because there's a lot of telltale items in episode 6 that kind of make you side eye just a little bit.
All right, moving on. We're going to move on to Miss Monica Rambeau and her unusual scans after coming out of the hex. So, you know, coming out of the hex, they're trying to make sure Monica is okay. They're scanning her and they say, hey, you know, these scans aren't turning up right, Monica. We got to do them again. And Monica is like, nah. What do we think is happening here?
I think you and I were both on the same page about this. Like it was thought of in episode 5. It was more so drilled in deeper in episode 6. So our I guess we'll go into this little theory here because I think we both felt like Monica already has powers and she knows she has powers. They've said the word, or they've displayed the word spectrum a couple of times throughout this season. Of course, we see photon. Monica Rambeau probably has the most aliases in the MCU because I've seen her as Miss Marvel, I've seen her as Scepter. Like, there's so many names that you can go with, but I feel like she's had her powers for a while, and her saying nah to the scans because it was light, you know. They were light. She was just like, nope, I already got it. And then in episode 6, we see that Hayward has been looking at her blood work and everything, and her cells are basically rewriting themselves. The thing that stood out to me, which when we go back to when Monica was first introduced, like she was sucked into the hex. And I feel like the energy in her body probably mimics a portion of the energy that Wanda's using for that hex, because there was other people standing close to it and they weren't sucked in. It was almost like the energy grabbed her and assimilated her, you know?
Yep, could be. And I'm on the same page with you with everything basically you just said. I think Monica knows about her powers. Again, we get that scene in episode 6 where it kind of lays a little bit more onto that, where she's, you know, Darcy's like, hey, you can't go back into the hex again. Your cells are completely like changing. And she's like, I've seen it all before, basically. She does go into this speech about, you know, cells metastasizing and, you know, going into remission and things like that. So I think to a viewer who doesn't read too much into what is being said, just goes back to Maria Rambeau and her mother, you know, her mother dying from cancer. But I think there was also another meaning to that. And it might have to do something with Captain Marvel, because we know from episodes 5 and a little bit in episode 6 where, you know, Captain Marvel is mentioned and Monica's like, ugh, we don't have to talk about her right now, you know? And, you know, and Hayward does say something in episode 6 where he's like, yeah, I know about that business between you and Captain Marvel, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So something happened between her and Captain Marvel, and it could be, you know, something that resulted in these powers that she does have.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. She pulled kind of like a Mariah. Oh, I don't know her. I don't know her. Who?
I don't know her.
Oh man.
So moving on, we're gonna talk about Hayward a little bit. We learn in episode 5 that Wanda actually finds where Vision's body is being held, as being stored at the sword facility. She breaks into the sword facility and takes Vision out of there. Well, when Hayward shows this information to the group, he's basically like, yeah, Wanda came and stole him and using him a way he didn't want to be used. He didn't want to be a weapon, and that's going against his living will. But we see from the video, that's exactly what Hayward was doing. He was making Vision into a weapon. Also, we learned in episode 6 that Hayward's actually tracking Vision in the hex using oh man, decaying vibranium.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you this. What do you think is going on between Wanda and Hayward right now? I feel like Hayward knows a little bit more about what's going on than he's letting on, and I feel like Wanda knows a little bit more about him that she's kind of keeping close to the chest right now. But she does come out to a point where Hayward fires a missile at Wanda. She does come out from the hex to be like, "Look, I done told you once." Daddy, get him,
Right.
She does come and set him in his place. So what do you think about that relationship between Wanda and Hayward, and basically what about Hayward was doing with Vision's body?
So here's the thing that really stands out about the Hayward Wanda relationship here. He's lying. We know he's lying about something. Number one, I find it completely odd that Sword would get the rights to Vision's body. Just right off the bat. I feel like that would go more so with the Avengers. I actually feel like based on the relationship with the Avengers, he was an Avenger, they would have given him a proper burial. His body would not be up in a lab like that. That's number one. Number two, when he's showing this footage, which by the way was supposed to be an end credit scene, and I believe it was Endgame. Yeah, and they held on to it for this, which I'm glad they did. He's positioning her as a terrorist. He's really making this point to underline her as a bad guy. Well, from what I know about video, it can be manipulated, and it didn't necessarily show anything other than Wanda kind of going off rails and attacking everybody. That was one piece of video. What happened before that? What happened after that? You know what I mean? So I feel like Hayward's not being completely truthful about his intentions with Vision. And again, he's got a tracking device. He's tracking him.
Yep.
Why would you need to track him?
Right.
So.
We do learn a little bit more that just basically how Hayward's being shady at this point, because at the end of episode 6, Darcy finds what is called Project Cataract on his computer, which we haven't really learned much about what it is yet. I'm hoping that we get to learn it in these last 3 episodes, but there is something up that Hayward is hiding. And in addition to that, I feel like at the end of episode 6, when Vision was coming out of the hex and he was being torn apart, everybody from Sword, including Hayward, was just sitting there watching him tear himself apart. So I feel like they did that for a reason, because Darcy was the only person that came out and was like, "What are you doing? Help him." And and Hayward was like, "Nah." So I feel like he has something else that he's trying to get done at this point, and it has to do with Vision's body. We just don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, when you think about a cataract and what it is it's a vision obstruction. It's something that obstructs your vision, I feel like there's clues in here as to what he might have been doing with Vision. We just haven't been able to piece them together yet. But yeah, he's not on the up and up. It's just he's just gone out of his way unnecessarily a few times to paint Wanda as the villain. And we see he also kind of throws that shade up against Monica as well, And I feel like he's doing that because he knows that she's fully capable of piecing this together and figuring it out and becoming even more of a threat to him than she already is. So.
Yep, there was that sassy friend comment in episode 6 when they got thrown out of Sword. Yes, I think everybody when they heard that sassy friend comment was like, "Huh, this Disney, right? Like, they ain't about to do this." No. Anyways, but moving on to the next. So Billy and Tommy, they start out as babies in episode 5. They aged up not only once but twice during the episode. And then in episode 6, they get their Wiccan and Speed powers. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out the way, because I know everybody's been talking about it. Do you think that Billy and Tommy are basically Hellspawn? I mean, the children of Mephisto.
Yeah, that one I'm not sure about yet, though. I'm not quite sure. The thing that did stand out to me, specifically in episode 6, well, we'll start with episode 5. It becomes apparent that Wanda can't control the children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Like, she just can't control them. They're self aware. There's even a point where they look at each other when the dog passed. They're like, let's age up again. And she's like, no, you can't do that. So by the time you get to episode 6, they're like they're like useful little people. You know what I mean? I hate to say that, but that's what it is. That's why I like, because at this age they're kind of fun. They can communicate their wants and needs, and you don't have to do a lot of guesswork or whatever. You just got to corral them and keep them in line, right? Um, but the theme song, so the theme song's a throwback to Malcolm in the Middle, and the original song is "You're Not the Boss of Me Now." But you notice in the opening credits, it announces Wanda, Vision, Billy and Tommy, and even Agnes gets a call out with her juicy couture booty short, like booty sweats.
Naughty on the back of it, yeah.
Yeah. And then also Pietro, and we know that she can't control most of them. The only one they're not sure about is Agnes, but I feel like she can't control her either. I
Mhm,
don't think Wanda could stop Agnes from popping up whenever she feel like it, even if she wanted to, you
mhm.
know? So I
Yeah.
guess to say, do I think they're Hellspawn? Quite possibly. We do know in the comics they are derived from pieces of Mephisto's soul, but I
Right.
wonder if the MCU is going to take it in a different direction and just make it be like she conjured these babies up, but because they are a product of her, that's why she has no control over them.
Mm,
And I mean, in a sense, that would also go for Pietro. I mean, in a sense, he's a piece of her. They're twins. Maybe she
mhm.
can't control him either. I don't know.
Yeah, could be, could be. And thank you for making that correction for me because I know in the comments y'all can be like, they're not his children. Thank you for correcting that. Mephisto, the souls of Mephisto and Billy and Tommy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know the comments. Don't come at me in the comments. Um, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think there's something with this children where she cannot, because she's tried to use magic on them and it does not work.
Mhm.
So I think there's something with these children that we're going to find out more in the last a few episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Next, let's talk about what's going on at the perimeter of the hex. So in episode 6, we get Vision, who's supposed to be doing neighborhood watch, as he told Wanda.
Liar.
We have him, yeah, liar, you're a liar. We have him going out and doing his own investigating as to what's going on within this hex. And as the closer and closer he gets to the perimeter of the hex, he starts to see people who are basically stuck in a loop.
Mhm.
There's a woman, putting up Halloween decorations, and a man putting down a jack o' lantern. But they're doing these motions over and over again, and you see that single tear come down from the woman. But then, as he gets to the outer limits of the perimeter, people are just standing still. They
Yeah.
can't do anything. They're not even moving. So this goes back to I feel something that Wanda mentioned in episode 5, where Vision was like, why are you doing all this and how are you controlling this? And Wanda's like, do you really think that I'm able to get all these people to their dentist appointments and yada yada yada?
Mhm.
Well, now we know, no, you're not. You're just holding these people captive until you need them for a scene.
Yeah.
So they're either standing still and or stuck in the loop, but you're not able to control, or you are able to control basically everything of the hex, but you're not able to move people around at the perimeters as much as you do when you get more towards the center of town. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I mean, I'm totally in agreement. And you and I have asked this question. Even Vision asked it, I believe, in episode 5. Like, where are all the children at? Like,
Yeah.
there's a school, there's no kids on it. Well, it's because she didn't need them at that point. But now for Halloween, you can't have Halloween without kiddos. So they're activated. I feel like those people on the perimeter, they was put on pause because, again, she can't control all of those people. And having all the kids active, she needed that power for them to keep up the facade of what's happening. So, I mean,
Yep.
I felt like the people, well, everybody within the hex, save for those the core group here, are kind of stuck in a sunken place. They're
Yeah.
like they see and hear everything, but they can't really do shit about it. You know, they're just passengers in their own body. So
Right. Right.
um that's what I took from it. Like literally, she does not have at this point the power to control every single person, so she's just using her call list as needed. I needed
Mhm.
all these kids active for trick or treat so Billy and Tommy could have a good Halloween. Yada yada yada. We have the festival, so y'all on pause until further notice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Um, Now I want to build off that just a little bit because when we do get outside the perimeter, Vision actually turned into his, his actual Vision costume, not the Halloween costume, and he flies up and he sees a car parked right at, I think it's called Ellis Avenue, where
Mm-hmm.
previously in episode 6, Wanda told Billy and Tommy not to go past. And we see Agnes. She's in the car. She stopped at Ellis Avenue. Vision, comes by her and does his little thing, which he actually did to in episode 5 to Herb,
Mm-hmm.
where Herb was like, "You have to stop her." But again, because Disney doesn't want to spoil it, we don't know who her is. But
Yeah.
basically, he does the same thing to Agnes here, and she basically is like, "Yo, you're a Vision, you're an Avenger, and you're dead." Um, what I'm sorry. I feel like in this scene, Agnes is being shady as fuck
Yeah.
because I feel like everybody in this perimeter is either standing still or in a loop. But here we go, Agnes at the very, brim of the perimeter, and she's able to say all these things to Vision, and she's just I mean, I don't know. It was shady to me.
Yeah. I figured it was shady. Number one, okay, so he did do like the little mind thing on her and she became a little bit lucid or whatever. But there was like this telltale thing that she did where she like puts her hands on her, she's like, and I was like, at that moment, I was like, you're faking it. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're faking it. And then I got to thinking, like, at the end of the day, with my theory of who Agnes Agatha is and her role in this, like she would have been at Ellis Ave because she knows Vision is getting closer to the truth, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like she was there to keep him from going beyond that barrier or whatever. So all this fainting crazy stuff that she was doing, like you're dead. You're supposed to be dead. I think it was done in an effort to sow confusion within him, but she
Mhm.
was faking it. Like like in my head, I'm like, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what I would do.
I 100% totally agree. I think she was there to keep an eye on Vision and
Mhm.
to feed Vision information to make him feel like, yeah, this is Wanda doing all this, child. Now,
Yeah.
another thing that I did kind of scope out though, because before Vision zaps her, she asked Vision where Town Square is, and
Hmm.
Vision's like, "It's in Town Square. Don't you live here?" Why doesn't she know? That's another sign. Like, why doesn't she know where
She
Town Square is?
knows.
That's not where I feel like that's not where she's from.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that's how she got lost. But like Vision was like, "You're from here. You should know where Town Square is." Am I? Oh, you're dead. Yeah, I still
Yeah.
feel like that was act. But that was another sign to me, like something's going on here with this with
Yeah.
her. I'm not going. You're not gonna trick me.
Yeah. And let's point this out too, because I feel like, I'm a big Halloween, I'm a big conjure like person. I'm into that stuff. I was like, I just found it Halloween is one of those holidays where some people are like, I feel like I can be myself and do what I feel like doing on Halloween. Everybody else's costumes were of their alter ego. Agnes was dressed like a witch. Let's just
Yeah.
not speed up. And we know that Agatha in the comic books is a witch. So I felt like, again, that was another reason why I'm like, you're faking it. You're faking it. You're faking it so hard right now. I kind of dig it, but
Oh man. So let's talk about these commercials.
Hmm.
So we get two new commercials. There's episodes 5 and 6. Episode 5 is kind of like the standard type of commercial we've been seeing in these WandaVision episodes. It hurt my heart just a little bit though. Because it was for Lagos paper towels for a mess you didn't mean to make,
Hmm.
referencing back to Winter. Is it Winter Soldier?
Was it? No, I think it was Civil War. It was
Civil
Civil
War.
War.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I knew Soldier was right, but I couldn't think of Civil War. Thank you.
Yeah.
Referencing back to Civil War, where Wanda unfortunately had a little accident in Lagos, ended hurting some people. But in episode 6, this commercial traumatized me a little bit because it started out as one of those commercials you would see in late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like the claymation style commercial, like, yo, magic, what's up, dude? And then it went dark. Feel about those? Well, how did you feel about the commercials in episode 5 and 6?
All right, so the episode at 5, I was like, yeah, I was like, now y'all like, cause here's my thing about the incident at Lagos, right? What the hell was she supposed to do? What was she supposed to do in that situation? Like somebody was getting blowed the fuck up either way. So it's kind of like I feel bad, but like what was she supposed to do? Did
Mhm.
that really need to spark this whole Sokovia Accords thing that they
Right.
did? Did that really need to go to that step? But fine, whatever. Episode 6 commercial, you know this about me. I have a very dark sense of humor. I died laughing, especially when the little boy couldn't open it. And he turned into a little skull, a little skull baby. I don't know why that tickled me the way it did, but it just did. But it was more so the shark and what he was saying that caught my attention because he was like, "No, I want some of your magic," and you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
when that was happening, it clicked in my head. I was like, "Ah, we've got a parasite. We've got a
Mhm.
parasite on our hands." So somebody's siphoning magic from somebody. Is it Wanda siphoning from somebody else? Is it whoever's in charge of this whole thing manipulating Wanda at this point? Are they siphoning magic off of her? I mean, at this point, like, not for nothing, let's please not discount Agnes because in the comic book, she's a very powerful witch.
Mhm.
She could be siphoning magic off of Wanda,
Yep,
you know?
that's true. Yeah. Now that I think about it, the symbolism in terms of the little skeleton boy trying to open up the yogurt is basically it could be whoever's siphoning off magic to Wanda is going to siphon it all off into a point where Wanda's not going to be able to have that magic anymore. She's not going to be able to
Yeah,
use her powers anymore because she doesn't have them anymore. So,
yeah.
um, but most definitely that commercial, I had to stop for a second. I was like, because it ended with the boy dying. He was a skeleton on the island, and then all of a sudden the shark popped back up, and he was like, "You magic for survivors or whatever, survival of the fittest or something
Yeah.
like that." I was like, yo,
Yeah.
Disney went dark quick, you know?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And then another thing, just to point out, remember it was episode 5 where the dog had died,
Hmm.
and Agnes, one of the kids, like alluded to, well, you can bring him back. And Agnes was like, you can do that, you
Hmm.
know. So it was like this kind of like, oh, here's a new thing I might be able to get from you. You know what I mean?
True,
a
true.
a new level of magic, you know.
And to build on that, I'm sorry, I completely forgot that in the episode 6, we have, of course, the Evan Peters Pietro show up, but he is asking a lot of questions of Wanda. How are you
Hmm.
doing this?
Yeah.
Uh, where are the children? So that could be another thing, like Agnes and I know you don't like me saying this, Mephisto, working together to try to siphon that magic from Wanda because they
Yeah.
both asking a lot of well, Pietro most, but Agnes was asking questions as well. So maybe they're
Hmm.
trying to find the limitations of her powers.
Yeah. And I don't mind you saying Mephisto because I've been very adamant that I feel like this is him or he's a part of it. And again, I feel like all of this is segueing into the Doctor Strange movie. And we know from MCU history, there doesn't necessarily have to be one big bad. It could be a few of them that span off across a few multiple movies. So I'm not knocking Mephisto out of the running, not at all.
Yep. Yep. And it also could be I've heard Nightmare as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
So
Nightmare. What's the other one? Dormammu. I mean, there's a whole legion of magic baddies here that MC, I think maybe the fourth phase might be tapping into.
yep. Yep. All
So,
right. So at this point, we're gonna end off the video with our predictions. And I know you're really good at this. You've got a lot of predictions for the last 3 episodes of WandaVision, but I want to start you off with this.
mhm.
Monica mentioned in episode 5 and episode 6 that she has an engineer friend that could help her build this, vehicle to get back into the hex.
Mhm.
I know there's been a lot of predictions as to who that could be, and hopefully we'll find out next episode who that actually is. Who do you think it is?
Mr. Fantastic. I mean, it would be the perfect opportunity to introduce. We know that we have well, I say we, Marvel has the rights to it. This would be a perfect way to introduce it, and set them up for whatever journey they're about to go on within the MCU. The only other people I could see it possibly being is just maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I thought it might be a scroll. The scrolls is a people too. So,
Could
you
be.
know.
One prediction that I didn't have this, but somebody had mentioned it and I forgot who did, so I apologize. This is not my thought, you guys, but they made a good point. Riri Williams.
Hmm.
That could be another option there because she is supposed to get her own Disney Plus show down the line. Maybe they
Yeah.
introduce her a little bit early and get her in here to do a little bit of engineering, just like Tony Stark would have.
Yeah.
Because this would have been the perfect job for Tony Stark, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, he's no longer, a part of the universe because he's dead. Would probably be the best most logical choice after Tony Stark, if it is not Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense also because let's face it, with the direction the MCU is going into, like at this moment, like this could be a perfect example of Black Girl Magic.
Hmm. I
Somehow Monica knows Riri. We don't know what Monica was doing up before WandaVision, so which is a story that I'm sure they're going to tell us about, but it's not entirely impossible that she hasn't been introduced or befriended Riri Williams.
right, right.
So that's a good call out.
Hmm. So, what other predictions do you have for the last 3 episodes of WandaVision?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm extremely happy because I did hear that Kevin Feige said that the last 3 episodes will be an hour long. But in WandaVision speak, that means they'll probably be 45 minutes, which is still longer than what we get with these because I looked at it and I was like, about 40% of this show is credits. So, which is why when we're watching it, it goes by so quick, and we're like, "What the hell?"
But you can't say that you don't stay until the end of
I do,
every single show because this is Marvel. They would
right?
pop in there to be like, "Up, did you catch that?"
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah. So in these next 3 episodes, I think we are going to get down to the nitty gritty. My predictions is, listen, I'm still sticking to the witch angle because here's another thing to point out about this episode, the Halloween episode. Halloween thought of in witchcraft and conjure is the point where the veil between the dimensions is the most thin,
mhm.
right? And I kind of feel like that's a metaphor for what's happening within the hex. Not to mention, we did forget this. Wanda expanded the hell out of that hex
She
when
did.
she saw that Vision was in trouble, and it wasn't even her. It was actually Wiccan. When he felt his poppy in danger, he was like, "Ma," and even Speed was like, "Whoa!" He was like, "Bitch, stop!" Like, this grown-up stuff right now.
Right.
Ma, he's in trouble. Go help him. And Wanda basically pushed the perimeter of the hex all the way back to ensure that Vision was still inside of it. Right?
Mhm.
Um, that's a huge deal. We haven't really talked about how Wanda and her powers have elevated from when she was first introduced into the MCU. You know, like she's never really taken control of people's bodies in the way we've seen her do it within this show. So that leads me to believe, going into the next theory, that this multiverse is already torn apart. I actually do think that this version of Pietro is her brother, because he asked her, he was like, she asked him like, how did you get here, like, and he was like, you called me, so I came. You felt like you were in trouble and called for me, and I came. Well, she can't bring the other one back from the
Yeah.
dead, so it pulled the closest thing to him,
Yeah.
which was his doppelganger.
I actually am gonna disagree with you on whether or not Evan Peters Quicksilver is the real Pietro, because, and I think in these next couple of episodes, Wiccan might be able to help us better identify whether that's true or not. Because
Oh yeah.
within episode 6, he was kind of side eyeing Pietro at first, because I think he was basically feeling his powers come on. Then like something's not quite right about this person. I don't know what it is, but I think in the next few episodes that we're getting, I think Wiccan might be the one to say that's not Pietro. Like, especially seeing how at the end of episode 6, where he was able to, detect Vision was in trouble, and he was like, "Ma, Papi's in trouble." I think he'll be the one to be like, "Yo, my powers are in full energy right now. That's not Pietro. You need to handle him, Mom."
Now, I can agree with you in a sense, because again, remember, I was like, episode 6 kind of turned things upside down to what I initially thought could still be the case, but there's more possibilities. I was messing around because I like Funko Pops. And I found the Pietro Funko Pop. Hold on, can you see? It's on the other side. Let's see, they're all over there. But I found the Pietro, the WandaVision version of Pietro, and it said Pietro Maximoff in quotation marks. So that's what was like, well, like maybe it's look, maybe it's not him. But again, it could just be one of those things where he's in quotation marks because maybe they're keeping it uncertain. Let's be completely honest here. We might not find out if that's the real Pietro or not by the end of this season.
Yeah,
it might bleed into another movie.
I really hope that they don't bleed this into the multiverse of madness, but I wouldn't blame them for doing that. Also, I wouldn't mind seeing, we talked about a little bit of this on our live chat with Silverside. If you guys have not checked out that live chat, please do. It's on Silverside YouTube channel. You can see this live chat about episode 6. But initially I was thinking that at some point, since Wanda has expanded this hex, that Doctor Strange was going to show up. But I'm not sure if it was you or I think it was Jay maybe brought up the point that we might get a Baron Mordo.
I mean, what's being very clear here is Magic is going to have a strong presence in this next set of movies, whatever the case may be. The thing we're also forgetting is we've also got another very powerful witch in the hex now, which is Wiccan. So I personally felt like Wanda expanding that hex, she wouldn't have been able to do that if he wasn't there. And then that kind of led me back to siphoning magic off of somebody. What if they're going to try to siphon magic off of him? Out of both of them. You don't know. It can go so many different ways. But prediction wise, this show can go so many different ways. And I feel like they're doing this on purpose, because I do think we're going to get a big dose of the multiverse in Doctor Strange, as well as Spider-Man, I also think that with this multiverse splitting the way it is, again, my theory about Pietro could be true. But I also think that over the course of this series, we've seen Wanda adopt more characteristics from her comic book alter ego. She's become a little bit more not evil, but kind of like unhinged And it
Mhm.
kind of goes back to that Lagos paper towel, when you make a mess that you really didn't mean to.
Right.
You know, in the comic books, a lot of messes that Wanda made, she really didn't mean to make them, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I feel like she doesn't come out of this as a sane person.
Yeah. I completely agree with that.
She doesn't.
No matter how this ends, I think she doesn't. She does unless she gets to take Billy and Tommy and Vision with her.
Hmm.
She's not coming out this the same.
Let me ask you this: do you think that Billy and Tommy will age up again and become like young adults by the time this season is over?
I I do. But only because Disney Plus is greedy, and I think they're trying to set up the younger.
I mean, it's the perfect opportunity to
I
do it.
know
We
it
we
is,
we
and
know
if
that they've casted.
show up, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And it's profitable. We know that they've casted America Chavez. She's gonna be in the next, I think, Captain Marvel movie. No, I think it is. No, it is Doctor Strange. You know? So, and we see like Kate Bishop and like all these other younger Avengers kind of
yeah.
being assembled or at least introduced. Um, Let me ask you another question. Let's see if my brain can find it again, because it was just there and then it went away. Um
It goes bye bye.
Shit, man. Pisses me off. It was like right there. But it was, oh, let me ask you this question. All right. So being familiar with the House of M and how that whole thing kind of jumped off. Um at the end of the day, I feel like the MCU is gonna do a reversal. I know in the comic books, Wanda basically was like, no more mutants, and mutants like cease to exist. I
Mm,
feel like she's gonna create mutants within this universe. And I think the introduction of Pietro, again, from my standpoint, him being the real one in the comic book, the reason why he might be so gung ho in the series, in the comic book, he was the same way. Matter of
mm,
fact, spoiler, guys, sorry. Spoiler, if you don't know the story, you haven't heard the comics. Pietro was supporting Wanda through all this, and Magneto was gonna kill his ass because he was like, he was like, "This is all because of you, Pietro." You know, so
yeah.
that's why my theory is like it's all up in the air now, because we know the source material, but we know they have to make it twisted for the sake of the
Hmm.
cinematic universe. Like, which way are they gonna take it?
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with you on that. Either that or I think Wanda might unintentionally yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say unintentionally create these mutants, but either way, yeah, she's
yeah,
gonna be somehow, some way involved in the creation of mutants. So
yeah.
I yeah.
Well, I mean, what else do we have? I think that's about the crux of it until we get to Friday, my
Hmm.
happy days. Because I definitely sit down and watch the episode at least 1 to 3 times, to
Yep.
check everything that I might have missed. What do you guys think in terms of the show, the series, the theories, like how this is going to bleed into the phase 4 of Marvel? Like, we want to know. We want to hear from you. Drop down in the comments. Let us know. One final thing, because we do kind of have this option. We've been doing a lot of lives lately. Would you guys be interested in a WandaVision after show live chat? Drop down, let us know. We might make it happen. Until next time, we are your hosts. I'm Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
We'll see you on the next episode of Blerd Up Reviews.
Thanks, guys.